The goal of today's notes is to apply the distributive property and start to display an understanding of like terms. Tomorrow we will do a repeat of this, kind of add a little bit more. First thing we want to review is what is the distributive property. The main thing I want you to think of is when you see, hear, or think about the distributive property, we are always talking about multiplication. That's a really important idea. And what it says is that if I want to know the product or multiplication of A and the sum of two other terms, B plus C, it first of all can be written in two ways. A, open the parentheses, B plus C, close my parentheses, or I can have the parentheses first with A second. What this looks like is I'm not just multiplying A times B. I'm actually multiplying A times B, so I'll write it as AB, but I'm also multiplying A times C. And since it's addition, I'll keep that addition and write that as AC. That doesn't change if I move A to the outside on the right of my parentheses. I'm distributing A to everything inside those parentheses. A times B, it's addition again, and distribute to the next term in the parentheses. A times C. Every time I distribute, I multiply. That does not change when I'm dealing with subtraction, just the sign changes. Distribute A times B. It's subtraction now, so I subtract, distribute A times C. Same thing when A is on the outside on the right. A times the first term, which is B. Subtract now because it's subtraction. A times my second term, which is C. Something that's important for you to remember. Maybe you've done this, maybe you haven't. I believe based on our pretest results you have. Every time I'm multiplying x times x, or a variable times itself, that gives me x squared. That's an important concept to remember because we will be distributing variables in this case as well. So, moving down to our examples on this first page. This is an example where I need to distribute or multiply 3 times x. And a lot of times, especially at the beginning of this school year, I'm going to write out every step. I'll show that arrow and write out 3 times x. It's addition, so it's plus. I will physically write out, that's 3 times 1. That's showing you and me exactly what we're doing here. Now I know 3 times x just stays as 3x, plus 3 times 1 is 3. That's my final answer. The process does not change when my number's on the outside on the right. I'm just looking. There's nothing in between the parentheses and that 7. That's how I know it's multiplication. I will distribute to the first term first. 7 times x. Subtraction this time. Distribute here. It's 7 times 2. I get my final answer. 7 times x is 7x minus 7 times 2 is 14. The only difference on number 3 versus something like numbers 1 or 2 is that my number on the outside is actually a variable. I treat this the same way. I'm going to multiply x times that first term. Something to keep in mind. When I am multiplying with variables, the variable always comes second. So I will still multiply that and show it as 2x. I will not write that as x2. That's not the correct way to write that. And when I multiply here, that's first of all addition. I have 5x times x. Well, we talked earlier about the important thing for us to remember. and we have a situation here. This is all multiplication. 5 times x times x. So I can multiply those two x's together, and I should. This is just 2 times x. It has to stay, but it becomes 5x squared since I have two x's there. Okay. Let's try that one more time here with number 4. I'm going to first distribute the d to the 2. That gives me 2d, not d2. You will get points marked off if you start writing it that way. Now I have subtraction, and when I distribute here, I have d times d. Again, I have a variable times itself. I have to simplify that. 2d minus, this is not 2d, it's d squared, or d to the second power. Okay. Go ahead and press pause right now, and then try numbers 5 and 6. After you've finished them, unpause to go ahead and check your answers. I will be going through them quickly, but press pause now. So for number 5, you should have distributed to get negative 6x plus, distribute again, negative 6 times 3. That gives you negative 6x plus negative. We do want to simplify that to subtraction. Do not write that as plus minus in your final answer. If you write it that way here, that's fine. 18. And we're done. And in number 6, we distribute our negative 3. Negative 3 times 2 plus, here is negative 3 times t. And again, I do not want to write things as plus negative. This becomes negative 6. This becomes minus 3t, not plus negative. Keep that simplified. Only one sign in between, please. You're now ready to move on to video 2 for the second page of notes.